All right, everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for what? Groundhog Day, week 8, 9, I don't know. With the City of Roanoke, I've got with us today Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, City Manager Bob Cowell. We were supposed to have Molly Odell with the Virginia Department of Health, but she had a conflict at the last minute, and unfortunately, we weren't able to have anyone from VDH, which you can imagine. I'm sure they're super busy with lots of stuff right now. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this over to Mayor Lee and Vice Mayor Cobb, and then we can open it up even more quickly to your questions that you might have for our city officials. So Mayor Lee, go ahead and kick us off.
Thank you, Tiffany, and good afternoon, everybody. Governor Northam has indicated he will open the Commonwealth of Virginia with Phase 1 this Friday, May 15th. Under the governor's Forward Virginia guidelines, Phase 1 includes loosening of regulations on a number of businesses and activities, including retail and place of worship. Details about Phase 1 and the associated regulations may be found at the State of Virginia's website, which is www.virginia.gov/coronavirus/forward-Virginia. In Roanoke, we're likewise beginning our phase reopening and supporting the efforts of businesses and institutions that are reopening. This includes opening Tinker Creek, Lick Run, Garden City, and Mill Mountain Greenways on May 15th, and the Roanoke River Greenway on May 19th. Last week, we started a series of virtual conversations with businesses and institutional leaders, checking to see how they are doing and asking what challenges they foresee as we progress through the phase reopening.
I found this on the web for a virtual conversations with businesses, institutional leaders. What is this? To show me the sooner. Check it out.
Through the phase reopening, as I said, last week we started a series of virtual conversation and businesses. So we started. Yesterday, the Vice Mayor and I took part in a virtual conversation with approximately 45 leaders of our faith-based community to likewise hear how they are preparing for the openings. And that was very well attended. And likewise, they share with us how they are preparing, helping their members and the larger community with what challenges they foresee. We've had almost 100, and that's a significant number for a Tuesday. We've had almost 100 faith-based leaders reach out to be part of the conversation. A subpage has been created for our faith-based community at www.roanokeva.gov/StarCityStrong. Our staff continue to plan for the phase reopening. Excuse me, that's just something not working on my phone, or is working, but shouldn't be working. And it's just not doing what I need for it to do. As our staff continues to plan for the phase reopening of our municipal facilities to the general public, we want to do this in a way that will ensure the safety of our employees and our visitors. It is anticipated reopening will occur sometime in June. In the meantime, access to essentially all municipal services remain available online or by phone. And I think that's important for us to remember, that even though the municipal building has been closed, access to all the services remain available online and by phone. And it's critical to remember while we are slowly reopening, the virus remains active and is present in our community. The focus should be on how we support our local economy and continue to do our part to combat the virus. This includes avoiding large gatherings, maintaining your physical distance, wearing a face covering when outside your home, practicing good hygiene, and staying home if you are sick. So that's very important. And again, emphasizing that the virus hasn't gone anywhere and we need to be careful. At this time, I'll turn the remainder of the press conference over to Vice Mayor Joe Cobb.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. The mayor mentioned the series of conversations that the city is hosting to check on folks as we respond to and begin to recover from the impacts of COVID-19. Last week, our staff convened an economic advisory panel consisting of business and organizational leaders from each of the key economic sectors in our community to hear how they are doing and ask what challenges they see ahead. This week and next, the mayor, myself, and our council members will likewise be hosting a series of focus group meetings, conducting one-on-one phone calls with a wide cross-section of our community. We'll be listening to representatives of large employers, small businesses, restaurants, hair salons, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, arts and culture, healthcare, and other groups. By the time we conclude this work and brief the entire council and our community at the June 1 City Council meeting, we will have listened to hundreds of individuals from all over our community. From these meetings, we will have a much better idea of how COVID-19 is impacting our local residents and businesses, what concerns they may have for the future, and how we can best support them. These conversations are an integral part of our recovery framework that we've called Roanoke Star City Strong: Response, Recovery, and Resiliency, which can be viewed at roanokeva.gov/2595/Roanoke Star City Strong. A significant component of our ability to successfully reopen and to our long-term recovery is successful management of the virus. This has included the steps taken thus far with extreme limits on gathering, maintaining physical distancing, and practicing good hygiene, in addition to wearing face coverings. These steps remain important, but as our communities begin to reopen and more people begin to move about more often, tools such as robust contact tracing and isolation will become even more important. We will continue to be in close conversation with the Virginia Department of Health, and particularly our local constituent, the Roanoke City and Allegheny Health Districts, to monitor this situation and to keep citizens apprised of how best to stay safe and take the necessary precautions during this gradual and phased reopening. So thank you all for tuning in. At this point, I'll hand it back to you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Joe. Tiffany, I know, is typing in some information for everyone to be able to access some of those locations that the mayor and the vice mayor have mentioned, so that folks are able to, you're able to connect to those as well. So at this point, as Tiffany indicated, with Dr. Odell not being able to join us, we're able to move more quickly into any questions that you all might have related to the reopening or the recovery. And so be happy to answer any of those questions.
All right, so Shane is up first. So how is the city preparing for reopening of Big Lit Brewing outdoor space? We've seen people not following guidelines in other cities when places reopen, forcing the city to come in and pull the plug.
Yeah, you know, obviously, and again, certainly the mayor and vice mayor can join in on this. I mean, we're now about to sort of enter a new phase of this response and recovery to the COVID virus, in that if it wasn't already necessary for people to really demonstrate and exhibit personal responsibility around some of these questions, around this question, now it really is the case. I mean, the governor has determined that at this point it is safe for certain businesses to operate under certain conditions, and those include the ability for those that have outdoor dining areas to be able to accommodate that. And it will be up to those individual businesses for the most part to ensure adherence to those guidelines. There are provisions in the governor's order that allow enforcement, and that enforcement will be, particularly as it relates to restaurants, will be enforced by the Department of Health with support from the locality. So the question about being forced to come in and, if you will, pull the plug really rests ultimately with the governor and the order. I mean, there certainly have been instances, we saw it in California, where the governor there had in effect opened up some things, saw that folks did not adhere to the guidance that was established, and they actually reduced those exposures. And I suppose that could still be possible, although I consider that fairly unlikely. I think that at this point, the determination has been, as long as everyone does their part, we can make our way through this. And now it's an appeal to everyone to do their part as we proceed. Mayor, Vice Mayor, anything you would want to add to that question?
Well, I just want to say that the word the city manager used a few moments ago, personal responsibility. We're asking our leaders, business leaders, and all of our citizens as we go through this phased reopening to use personal responsibility in what you're doing. And again, we recognize that the virus is still there, but we're hoping that they will follow through and continue the social distancing, the gatherings of 10 or less, and those kinds of things have to be done. But we're depending on our leaders, and I'm encouraged because we've had talks today and the last few days with our business leaders, and I think they recognize that it's important that we do this the correct way. So I'm encouraged.
Yeah, and I would actually echo what the mayor just mentioned. We've had two of those kinds of conversations so far with business leaders and small business owners. And by far, the number one item that they mentioned that is of their greatest concern is their ability to continue to operate or begin to operate in a way that keeps their customers and their employees safe. So I know that at least on those that we've talked with, that's top of mind, and they're going to do everything they can to ensure that that safe conduct takes place as well. The next question is coming from the Roanoke Times, and is actually a question regarding the conversations that the mayor and vice mayor alluded to, and it asks whether there'll be a public record of those conversations or just a summary, and how will the recommendations be enacted. And so again, I'll start and then hand it off to the mayor or vice mayor. On the June 1st meeting, as was mentioned by the mayor, that will be a summary presented by each of the council members and the mayor as to what the conversations have entailed. We are taking notes from those meetings. I would not call them minutes. They're kind of summary notes of who attended and participated and what we've learned through those. And those certainly will be made available at that time so that folks can look at the full record, if you will, of what we've heard as we've gone through these conversations. What will be presented at the meeting, though, again, just by necessity, will be a summary of those conversations. The recommendations, what those are there for, actually, what the conversations are there is to really elevate for the mayor and the council and for senior administration what it is that the businesses see as their greatest challenges. And that will be used to help us actually gain an understanding of where we can be most effective in trying to address what those concerns are. And so far, a lot of those concerns are similar concerns that we share as an employer of 1,700 people, and haven't yet really fallen into a category of much action necessary, other than just continuing to support what they're doing. But so we'll see as they progress. Like I said, we've just begun those conversations as we've gone on. Vice Mayor, anything? I know you've now participated at least in the faith-based conversation, and anything that, well, and one of those was as a result of that information that you all learned was the information that Tiffany alluded to, which was to present up on our website, so folks can avail themselves of resources that are trying to figure out, how do I safely open up my church? What should I be concerned about or interested in? Or if I'm going to attend a religious service, what can I expect that to be like? Or what might I as an individual take into consideration? So any thoughts about this question about how this information might be used?
Well, our session yesterday was obviously directed toward clergy and the reopening questions and issues they might be facing as they take those steps. And so the information that was shared, of course, was open. It was public in the sense that those who attended the meeting were able to view it. The summary of those conversations and what was presented and the resources that were shared, as you mentioned, Bob, will be available on the city's website under the Star City Strong plan page. There's a dedicated subpage. I anticipate that, as you said, these will be summaries of what we hear from people, because, and the reason I say that is because these are not just the focus groups that have been set up, but these are one-on-one conversations with citizens, with business owners, with faith leaders, all the categories that we've named. And so I think all of our intention is to bring that information that we receive in summary form from those conversations to share with council on June 1st.
Great, thank you.
All right, next, will the city pools and other summer rec programs open and operate this summer? If not, was that primarily a health decision or a budget decision?
Yeah, we're still working through that final determination. We'll probably make a decision, well, we will make a decision much sooner on pools than we probably will on our summer rec programs. Part of the answer to that question on pools rests already with the information that was contained in the executive order from the governor. If you look at that order, and we anticipate being under that order starting on the 15th for at least 2 weeks, if not as many as 4 weeks. And it basically precludes the opening of what I would call kind of recreational pools. It really is oriented to outdoor pools that are divided up into lanes where one swimmer per lane is actually conducting themselves. So practically, that's not a city pool. That's not a recreational pool. So realistically, that first month or so of the season is going to be lost to that piece. So we have to start asking, does it even make sense to open for a part of the season? And then to the second part of your question about the budget part of it, as you know from our original budget kind of summary briefing that we provided last, one of those budget items that we have put up there for consideration is actually the closure of the pools, maybe initially for COVID-related reasons, and then secondarily for budget-related reasons. So I would expect the pool answer to come out probably sometime early next week, so we'll know where we are. On the summer rec program, it's a little bit more challenging because we think some of the summer recreation programs may be able to occur in relatively small numbers outside, for example, where others that we would do, we would not be able to do because of the anticipated size of the crowds and because our municipal facilities will remain closed for some period of time. I would think that we'll start as we kind of work on our reopening plans, and as we move closer to June, we'll be at a point where we can start discussing what of those programs may or may not be possible to actually conduct safely as we proceed into summer. Are there any other questions that anyone might have? Not seeing any, so I will remind everyone that on Monday, we will actually be presenting to the council at their meeting the proposed FY21 budget. So this picks up from where we left last, which was at the briefing last week. So we will present that. That would be my proposed budget to the council. There is then that document will be made available following the meeting so that folks will be able to access both the presentation that will of course be rebroadcast on RVTV, but also will be on our website, as well as the budget document itself. And then on the 28th, we will be holding the public hearing on May 28th on that budget proposal. And then, of course, that's all moving us toward a June adoption of the budget. So that will be probably one of the more significant items on the 18th as well as we progress. So certainly encourage folks to join us on Facebook as well as on RVTV to actually view that meeting. Mayor, Vice Mayor, any last thoughts or comments before we close it out?
I would just really encourage people to take this very seriously. As we've all reiterated, this isn't a rush to reopen. It's a phased reopening. To err on the side of caution, I think, is advisable. I know that so many businesses are really approaching this very seriously in how to negotiate these openings in both, caring for their employees, providing the service they do to their customers, but also now that added step of monitoring the space between and making sure that we're not seeing these bunches of crowds and overcrowding. I think it's really a call for all of us to think about ourselves and think about those that we're close to, because as Dr. Odell has said on many occasions, we have the ability to prevent the spread of this, but we have to take it seriously. And I just want to commend all of our businesses and entities that are beginning this phased process of reopening for taking this seriously and for really thinking about their health and the health of their customers and the health of the general public. I think that's going to make the biggest difference in keeping our city healthy through the course of this virus.
Yeah, and I think, to reinforce that, something that Dr. Odell said recently is starting on Friday, we enter this new phase where now our challenge is our challenge is reopening the economy. So engaging in the economy and engaging in the protection of all of us by continuing to reduce the exposure to the virus. And it's not, it's no longer an exclusionary process. It's no longer protect us against the virus while not engaging the economy. Now it's trying to determine a way in which best to do both of those things as we go forward. Mayor, any last thoughts or comments?
Basically, you all have covered everything. I just want to emphasize, if we're going to be successful, it's going to take personal responsibility from everyone as we go forward to make sure that this phase and this reopening will be and serve us well. So personal responsibility is key. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for everyone that has joined us as well. And we will anticipate being back here again on next Wednesday at 3. And I am confident that we will be talking mostly about how is the reopening going and about the budget proposal that has been submitted, that will be submitted on Monday. And there may certainly be some other things between now and then that we'll want to talk about also. So thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Thomas, again for being our ASL interpreter. We appreciate that. And remember, this will also be rebroadcast on RVTV tomorrow and Friday at 4 p.m. So just check our website for more info. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you,
all.
Bob and Joe and everybody. Have a good evening.
You too.